Jacob's story is an extraordinary journey filled with struggle, deception, and an ultimate encounter with divine grace. His life is a testament to how God's purposes can unfold even through imperfect people. In this retelling, we will dive deep into his narrative and discover lessons that still speak to us today. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a God bless you in the comments to spread a chain of blessings around the world. Our story begins long before Jacob's birth, in the land of Canaan, where Isaac and Rebekah desperately longed for children. Rebekah's womb remained barren for 2 decades, despite the great promises God had made to Abraham, Isaac's father, about their descendants. Isaac, deeply distressed, earnestly prayed for his wife. His prayers were answered, and Rebekah conceived. But her pregnancy was tumultuous. She felt an intense struggle within her womb. Confused and frightened, she sought the Lord's counsel. The answer she received was a prophecy. 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples will be separated from your body. 1 people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. This divine declaration foreshadowed not just a rivalry between brothers, but the destinies of entire nations. When the twins were born, their differences were apparent from the start. Esau, the firstborn, was red and covered in hair, a hint of his wild and impulsive nature. Jacob followed, grasping Esau's heel, a gesture that was symbolic of their lifelong struggle. Isaac, now 60 years old, must have looked at these twins with both awe and concern. The contrast between them only grew as they matured. Esau became a skilled hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob preferred the quieter life of tents, learning the arts of negotiation and strategy. Isaac favored Esau, delighting in his robust nature and the wild game he brought home. Rebekah, on the other hand, loved Jacob, perhaps remembering the prophecy that declared him the chosen one. This favoritism sowed the seeds of division, a timeless reminder of the dangers of unequal parental love. Yet, in the grand tapestry of God's plan, even these human failings were woven into a story of redemption. The pivotal moment of Jacob and Esau's youth occurred over a simple meal, but its consequences were far-reaching. One day, Esau returned from the fields utterly exhausted and famished. Jacob, who had prepared a pot of lentil stew, saw an opportunity. When Esau begged for food, Jacob demanded a steep price: Esau's birthright. This birthright was not just an inheritance. It represented spiritual authority and the promise of leadership over their family. "Look, I'm about to die," Esau exclaimed in a fit of dramatic exaggeration. What good, he reasoned, was a birthright if he perished from hunger? Without further thought, he agreed to Jacob's terms, trading a divine promise for a bowl of stew. This incident revealed the nature of both brothers. Esau was impulsive, driven by his immediate desires, with little regard for the future. Jacob, on the other hand, was cunning and calculative, willing to seize any advantage. While the moral integrity of Jacob's actions is debatable, the importance he placed on God's promises stands in contrast to Esau's disregard. Years later, as Isaac grew old and his eyesight failed, he decided it was time to bestow his blessing upon his firstborn, Esau. The blessing was not just a father's farewell. It was a prophetic declaration that shaped the destiny of generations. Rebekah overheard Isaac's plans and, determined to see the prophecy fulfilled, devised a scheme to ensure Jacob received the blessing. She instructed Jacob to disguise himself as Esau. Jacob hesitated, not out of a moral dilemma, but from fear of being caught and cursed. "Let any curse fall on me," Rebekah assured him. They prepared a meal for Isaac, and Jacob donned Esau's garments, covering his hands and neck with goatskins to mimic Esau's hairy skin. As he approached his father, Isaac was suspicious. "The voice is Jacob's," he noted, "but the hands are Esau's." Yet, deceived by the feel and scent of Esau's clothing, Isaac blessed Jacob, bestowing promises of abundance, dominion, and divine favor. Just as Jacob left his father's presence, Esau returned with his game, eager for his blessing. The discovery of Jacob's deception was heart-wrenching. Isaac trembled violently, realizing he had been tricked. Esau's bitter cry for a blessing echoed through the household, but Isaac had nothing comparable left to give. Esau's anguish quickly turned into rage. He swore to kill Jacob once their father died. Rebekah, ever the strategist, warned Jacob of the danger and urged him to flee to her brother Laban in Haran. Thus began Jacob's journey, both physical and spiritual. As he fled, night fell, and he found himself alone in the wilderness. Using a stone for a pillow, he lay down to sleep. That night, Jacob had a vision, a stairway reaching from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending. At the top stood the Lord, who reiterated the covenant made with Abraham and Isaac, promising Jacob the land and descendants as numerous as the dust of the earth. Awaking with awe, Jacob declared, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." He named the place Bethel and vowed that if God protected him on his journey, he would serve the Lord and give a tenth of everything he received. Arriving in Haran, Jacob encountered Rachel at a well, and it was love at first sight. Her beauty captivated him, and he agreed to work 7 years for her hand in marriage. The years seemed to pass quickly because of his love for her. Yet, on his wedding night, Laban, Rachel's father, deceived Jacob. Under the cover of darkness, he substituted Leah, Rachel's older sister. The next morning, Jacob was outraged. "Why have you deceived me?" he demanded. Laban justified his actions, citing local customs, but offered Rachel in exchange for another 7 years of labor. Thus, Jacob found himself married to 2 sisters, a situation that would sow jealousy and rivalry for years to come. Leah, feeling unloved, bore him sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, each name reflecting her struggle for Jacob's affection. Rachel, barren and desperate, gave her maidservant Bilhah to Jacob, who bore Dan and Naphtali. Leah, in turn, offered her maidservant Zilpah, who bore Gad and Asher. Leah later had 2 more sons, Issachar and Zebulun, and a daughter, Dinah. Finally, God remembered Rachel, and she bore Joseph, whose name means, "May the Lord add another son." Jacob's family grew, but so did his wealth. God blessed him abundantly, even as tensions with Laban mounted. After 20 years of labor and growing strife, God commanded Jacob to return to Canaan. He secretly left with his family and possessions, but Laban pursued him. God intervened, warning Laban in a dream not to harm Jacob. They made a covenant, and Laban bid his daughters and grandchildren farewell. As Jacob neared Canaan, his past sins haunted him. He prepared to meet Esau, sending gifts ahead to appease his brother. Fearful of Esau's intentions, he divided his family and possessions into 2 camps, hoping that if one was attacked, the other could escape. That night, Jacob was left alone, and a mysterious man wrestled with him until daybreak. This was no ordinary struggle. It was a divine encounter. The man, realizing he could not overpower Jacob, touched his hip, dislocating it. But Jacob clung to him, demanding a blessing. The man asked, "What is your name?" When Jacob answered, he declared, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Jacob emerged from that encounter blessed, but limping, a mark of his transformation. The next day, he faced Esau. To his surprise, Esau ran to meet him, embracing him with tears of reconciliation. It was a moment of grace, a reminder of God's power to mend even the deepest wounds. Though they parted ways, the bond between the brothers had been miraculously restored. Jacob's life continued to be marked by trials. The loss of Rachel during Benjamin's birth and the deception of his sons, who sold Joseph into slavery, brought him sorrow. Yet, through these hardships, Jacob witnessed God's faithfulness. Years later, famine struck Canaan, leading Jacob and his sons to Egypt, where Joseph, now a powerful leader, revealed himself. The family was reunited, and Jacob blessed his sons, prophesying the future of each tribe. In his old age, Jacob reflected on a life marked by struggle and divine encounters. Before his death, he made his son's promise to bury him in Canaan, in the cave of Machpelah, beside his ancestors. His journey came full circle, but his legacy lived on through the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob's story reminds us that God's purposes are often accomplished through flawed human beings. His journey, filled with deception and redemption, teaches that even in our weakest moments, God's grace prevails. If this story moved you, remember to explore our store for spiritual items like crosses, prayer journals, and more.